Yo Ben, Chuck here. I'm getting ready to box up the B130X to ship it out to you, and I'm going to be including some neat things to make testing a little bit more fun. So the number one question I see from potential consumers about battery packs is, how do they charge it if they don't drive their car long enough or often enough? So that's why we have these plug-and-play AC-DC inverters. And this one right here is the one I'm going to send to you. This was the official Black Box My Car unit, but during testing I found that this thing would overheat and shut down at about halfway through the charging process. And the reason why is because it's a combination problem with the battery pack. It'll go into a sort of a runaway where it'll start asking for more current, and it overheat, and then this thing overheats and then shuts down, and it keeps going in an endless boot loop cycle. And the reason why we found that out is because this thing only puts out 5 amps, 14.6 volts. So Black Box My Car, they upgraded to a much bigger, powerful unit. This one is also 14.6 volts, but it does 8 amps. And it works a lot better. And I'd like to send you this one, but I need to hang on to this because I think when the PowerCell 8 Gen 2 battery pack comes out, I'm going to be using that on that. And the consumers can usually find these on Amazon for $15, but keep in mind those are only at 12.6 volts, so it may or may not work. And I keep calling that the plug-and-play solution because that's going to be the easiest one for most consumers. For us, it's much better to get one of these power supplies that you just bought, because you can get these for $50, $60, and you can charge it on both 5 amp and 10 amp protocols. The next thing is, I'm sure you already know about these. These are these little 3-wire connectors. I'm going to send you one just in case you don't have one, with the hardwire kit to the battery pack, and I've got an extra Blackview barrel connector here, so you'll be ready to go for testing on a Blackview camera. And the next thing is I was testing this with a solar panel, and I only had a 50-watt panel. And I had some good results with that, but I couldn't quite get it to charge because you need a 100-watt panel. So if for some reason you already have a 100-watt panel, I would love to see some experimentation with that. And for that, you're going to need to make a custom charging cable. So I'm going to send you an XT60 connector, and you'll just need to solder this onto some 12-gauge wire to run it to this thing. And quick note, when you're soldering these things, make sure you put it together, because that will help dissipate heat to prevent this plastic from getting warped or whatever. And you might want to, and if you're going to buy a pack of these are like 10, you can get a 10-pack for $8, so they're kind of cheap. They're like less than $1. So you might want to buy a pack of 10 and then make a short cable like this to make it easier on yourself when you're testing and charging with your power supply, rather than using a big long corded one like this. And then another note on that is, you may find that this Blackview will not cooperate charging on the 5 amp protocol. That's because you got to use these 3-pin XT60 connectors with this 3rd ground pin right here, and most XT60s are just 2-pin. They don't have that. So I have never found a reliable source to buy these connectors, so I had to buy an entire cable off a solar charging thing and cut it off and then solder on my own connector. So keep that in mind. And the last thing I want to mention is, if you're going to do an install video, you might want to show how to wire this up with a relay. Robert has a really good video on how to do that, because powering this thing through your fuse box, that's kind of questionable in my opinion, because 10 amps is a lot of current. So Robert has a much better idea of running this, charging it off directly off the battery with a much thicker, powerful, beefier cable, and then using a relay to control it to keep all of that high current out of the fuse box. And then another thing is, if you're going to install this in your wife's car and upgrade her 124X, I really do not recommend this 14 gauge wire that comes with it for two reasons. One, it's got this tinned aluminum or a copper clad aluminum wire, and it's 14 gauge. I really would like to see 12 gauge wire be used in OFC, oxygen free copper wire. But I'm sure you already know that. Okay, that's pretty much it. Looking forward towards your testing and maybe your YouTube video. Bye-bye.